Everyone thinks Eren Yeager wanted freedom, but the truth is, freedom terrified him. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Eren was never truly free, even when the world bent to his will. From the very beginning, Eren wanted one thing more than anything else. Not power, not revenge, freedom, or at least the idea of it. As a child, he stared at the walls like they were a prison sentence. They weren't just stone. They were proof that someone else decided the limits of his life. That feeling shaped him. The rage, the restlessness, the belief that something precious had been stolen before he even had a chance to touch it. But what Eren really wanted wasn't the outside world. It was control. Control over a life that felt chosen for him. Loss carved that hunger even deeper. Watching his home fall, watching people disappear, pain taught him a lesson early. If you are weak, you don't get to choose. So Eren chose strength. He chose to move forward, even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. The more he fought, the clearer his desire became. Not to live peacefully, but to never feel powerless again. That desire became his compass and his cage. Eren believed freedom was something you could take, that if he destroyed enough enemies, it would finally belong to him. But every step forward demanded a sacrifice, a piece of himself, a piece of someone else. And Eren kept paying the price without looking back, because stopping meant feeling, and feeling meant doubt. The obstacle was never just the enemy outside the walls. It was the future waiting for him. A future he could see, a future he couldn't escape. Knowing what comes next doesn't give you freedom. It takes it away. Eren saw the road laid out in front of him. Every scream, every betrayal, every death. And instead of turning away, he followed it. That was his choice, and his curse. He told himself there was no other path, that this was the only way. But the truth was harder. He didn't want another way, because another way would mean uncertainty, and uncertainty felt like weakness. So he became decisive, cold, unstoppable. He wore resolve like armor, and called it freedom. But every choice narrowed his world. Every decision locked another door behind him. Eren wasn't moving toward freedom. He was running from helplessness. And the faster he ran, the smaller his world became. The consequence wasn't just destruction. It was isolation. Friends became observers. Enemies became inevitable. Lives became numbers. Eren stood at the center of it all, alone, by design. Because if he accepted help, he would share control. And sharing control meant risking pain again. This is what happens when trauma becomes identity. Eren's anger wasn't just emotion. It was protection. A wall he built inside himself. When you grow up feeling trapped, control feels like safety. Power feels like peace, even when it's built on fear. Eren tied his sense of self to action, to movement, to never stopping. Stillness scared him, because stillness leaves space for regret. His visions of the future locked him into a loop. If this is who I become, then this is who I must be. That's not confidence. That's surrender. He wasn't free to change. He was loyal to an idea of himself he couldn't let go. Eren confused inevitability with purpose, pain with meaning, destruction with resolve. And the more the world reacted to him, the more important he felt, the more necessary his suffering became. This is the quiet danger of believing you are the only one who can act. It isolates you and justifies everything. At the turning point, the truth finally surfaces. Eren didn't move forward because he believed in the future. He moved because he was afraid to stop. If he stopped, he would have to face the boy who wanted to see the world. The boy who thought freedom meant wonder, not domination. Admitting that meant admitting loss, not of people, but of himself. So he chose certainty, a future already written, a role already decided, because certainty hurts less than hope. Hope asks you to risk disappointment. Certainty only asks you to obey. Eren called it freedom, but it was obedience to his own fear, and once you see that, everything changes. The tragedy isn't that Eren destroyed the world, it's that he believed he had to. This is where the story reaches out to you, because maybe you felt this too. That urge to lock yourself into a role, to keep moving because stopping feels dangerous. Sometimes, You don't want freedom. You want guarantees. You want to know the pain will mean something, so you cling to patterns, to anger, to certainty, even when it costs you connection, even when it costs you yourself. Eren's story hurts because it's human, because freedom isn't about endless choices. It's about accepting uncertainty without becoming cruel. He couldn't do that. And maybe, in his place, many of us wouldn't either. He wasn't born a monster. He became someone who couldn't let go. There is another layer to Eren that often goes unspoken. It lives in his relationships, in the way he loved, and the way he pushed people away. Eren wanted to be understood without being questioned. He wanted loyalty without vulnerability. That imbalance mattered. When people got close, they saw cracks, doubt, fear, a boy pretending to be certain. So he distanced himself. Not because he stopped caring, but because caring made him hesitate. Hesitation felt dangerous. Dangerous because it reminded him he could choose differently. This is a classic response to loss. When attachment hurts, control replaces closeness. When grief overwhelms, action numbs it. Eren didn't process pain. He weaponized it. Every step forward became proof that suffering was worth it, that the deaths meant something, that turning back would betray them. This is how people trap themselves, by turning past pain into future obligation. Eren believed he owed the dead his obedience, that deviating from the path would make their sacrifice meaningless. So he marched, even when the path led somewhere he hated. He spoke about freedom constantly, but notice how rarely he smiled, how rarely he rested. Freedom should feel light. Eren carried it like a burden. The more power he gained, the more rigid he became. Rigid people aren't free. They are afraid to bend, and bending requires trust. Trust in others. Trust in the unknown. Trust that you won't disappear if you let go. Eren never trusted that. His identity fused with his mission. Without it, he didn't know who he was. That's why the ending was inevitable. Not because fate demanded it, but because Eren couldn't imagine himself existing any other way. Freedom requires imagination. The courage to believe you can become someone new. Eren lost that courage long before the end. This is why his story feels suffocating to watch. You can sense the walls closing in, not around the world, but around his heart. Every time someone reached for him, he stepped further away. Every time love appeared, he treated it like a threat. Because love asks you to stay present, and presence means you might feel the weight of what you've done. Eren chose distance. Distance from guilt. Distance from grief. Distance from himself. And that distance was the final prison. It wasn't the world that trapped him. It was the story he told himself. A story where strength replaced honesty, and motion replaced healing, until there was nothing left to save. Freedom was always there, quiet, waiting. But Eren never slowed down enough to hear it call his name, and so the silence followed him, unbroken, to the end. And maybe that's the real tragedy.